So we finally have the name of who Liverpool are targeting as their new holding midfielder, and it is Martin Zubimendi of Real Sociedad. I'm sure you will have seen the news breaking on Twitter, on my Substack, everywhere else, across social media, that he is the one that Liverpool want to come in and take on that anchor role under Arne Slot. Now, of course, we know that over pre-season he has been assessing his squad and looking at areas that he wants to strengthen, and then talking with the recruitment team about who the ideal targets will be. And as I say, it's going to be Zubimendi in that holding role, or at least that is what Liverpool want to do this summer. That is the player that they want to sign, because don't think it's going to be an easy deal to get done. There are some elements of it that make it kind of straightforward. I mean, he has a €60 million release clause in his contract. That's around £52 million. So in theory, that makes it kind of straightforward. No negotiations on the club side in terms of that. But there are other elements that make it difficult. Of course, that release clause, it could be that Real Sociedad declare that they want that paid in one lump sum, and Liverpool have to decide whether they want to do that or try and negotiate some sort of more favourable payment terms. So that is an element that they do have to work through. And also, of course, the player himself, in terms of whether he wants to come to Liverpool or not. That has proven to be something that has been a sticking point in past negotiations around Zubimendi. There have been other clubs that have wanted him. Reportedly, Arsenal were one of the most recent ones who tried to tempt him away from Real Sociedad and failed to do so. So again, that is going to be a big element, is whether the player thinks it's time now to make the move. Because it's worth mentioning that Real Sociedad, they're his hometown team, his boyhood club. He came up through the academy, so a lot of affection for that side, for that club. And obviously tearing him away from there is going to prove tricky, I think. But obviously, Liverpool will push. We know that. That's very much my understanding. They do want the player. They've identified him as the perfect player to come in and play that holding role in an Arne Slot system. And so they are going to do everything they can to convince the player, and as I say, on the club side, try and get themselves a favourable terms in terms of the payment. Now, of course, around that payment, actually, it's worth mentioning there are alternative ways around that, even if you have to pay the full lump sum. I mean, Liverpool were forced to do that when they signed Dominik Szoboszlai from RB Leipzig. They had to pay his entire release clause in one go, but you can, of course, finance that externally so that on your books it doesn't come in as one huge payment. So that is an alternative approach that they could take, but it's interesting to see how that whole thing works out and whether they are happy to pay the whole thing or Real Sociedad are happy to take that release clause in instalments. And it's also worth mentioning as well, there is always the possibility, now this news is out there, that other clubs could come in and compete for his signature, whether that's Arsenal maybe reigniting their interest, although it seems that they've got other midfield targets. Manchester United have long been touted as a potential destination, obviously not in as good a position as Liverpool sporting-wise at the moment, but you never know. They put their money on the table. That could be an issue for Liverpool. But if there is going to be strong competition around him, or even if not, the reasons why Liverpool would want him, I think, are clear to see from his profile. Obviously, 25 years of age, that's a good age, just on the sort of cusp of those peak years, which is where Liverpool do like to make signings. You think about Mohamed Salah, Fabinho, Firmino, Mane, all came in around that age. Alisson similarly. He's also got nearly 200 appearances in top flight football in Spain, in a top European league. So Liverpool have a really good idea and a good sort of source of data there to really assess how good he is. So they feel they have a good idea of that. And he's also got 10 Spain caps, which I think getting in the Spain midfield, or at least even in their squad, is a good indication of the quality of a midfielder, given the incredible players that they have available in that position. And you will remember, actually, the last Spain cap he got, his 10th, actually came in the final of the Euros against England. He came on for Rodri at half-time, Rodri of Manchester City, who was injured, and helped Spain over the line there and earn that 2-1 win over England that won them the trophy. So he's if you can come in and seamlessly replace Rodri as he did, then you're clearly a very, very good player. And I'm sure Liverpool would hope, if they can sign him, they will make a similar impact and reach that similar level to Rodri. I think is, hands down the best holding midfielder in world football by some distance at the moment. So Liverpool are definitely looking for that type. But I think it is kind of interesting profile-wise about him, in that when we've spoken about in the past Liverpool always wanting a 6 and kind of looking at what's out there, the type they've tended to be looking at and the type that a lot of fans have wanted is really more of a destroyer, someone who gets about the pitch and wins the ball, wins the tackles, and then maybe plays it simple to a teammate who's nearby and moves in that way. But I think it's clear that it's a different profile that Liverpool are looking for. They're looking for more of a controller type, a metronome. Don't get me wrong, Zubimendi wins his challenges, he wins headers as well, he's good aerially, which again is important. You want to put height in your team to defend against set pieces and in general play. And he does win battles, but he is more of a passer than a destroyer, I would say, you know, in comparison to, say, maybe someone like an Edison at Atalanta, who Liverpool have been linked with. And I think that's kind of interesting because it shows what is being demanded of this midfield under Arne Slot is going to be very different to what it was under Jurgen Klopp. Obviously, we've known down the years that Jurgen Klopp midfields have tended to be quite workmanlike, really, whereas I think with this, it shows you that Liverpool want control of the ball, they want possession. It's not about being as aggressive in the centre of the park, even if Zubimendi is someone who wins his duels. I mean, it's interesting, speaking to people who work in sort of the analytical side of football, they say kind of profiles similarly to Mac Allister, and I can kind of get that, why Liverpool would want that, because although I thought you saw some of sort of the downsides of Mac Allister, or some of his weaknesses rather, when he was used as a lone pivot, I think when you put him in a 2, I think you just see strengths. Obviously, he does win challenges. He does win, you know, he's great on the ball as well. So every side of that in terms of midfield, he's got that, and incisiveness from deep positions as well. And I think if you get 2 of those next to each other, you know, the fact that they don't have as big a spaces to cover, and the lack of pace can cover up for that lack of pace almost. And as I say, the gaps and the spaces they have to cover and tackle within are much smaller, and so you can mask those little bits of weaknesses around pace in transition or opposition transition moments, and just get all the upsides, which is the control, the ability to keep the ball constantly, use it well, be incisive, and get the ball into the forwards quickly. So I really, in theory, like the idea of kind of 2 Mac Allisters next to each other in Liverpool's midfield, and I think clearly Liverpool like that idea as well. Now, of course, if they do progress with this signing, and it is an if at the moment, Liverpool definitely like him, but as I say, there's a few hurdles to get there to get this over the line, then I do think it's going to have a knock-on effect, isn't it, on the one sort of nailed-on holding midfielder they have in that squad, which is Wataru Endo. Obviously, there was that rejected bid from Marseille early in the window, but it's very much my understanding that Liverpool would be open to a sale if the price was right, and they don't really see a massive role for Endo in the squad next season, because they're obviously looking for someone who's a very different profile to him. But that's very recently, and my understanding is from the players' camp, that Endo is still, despite the fact that Liverpool are chasing reinforcements in his position, he's still absolutely determined to stay at Liverpool and fight for his place. He really does want to sort of, you know, he doesn't want to let his dream of playing at Anfield go after just one season, so he is very much resolved to stay. So interesting to see how that plays out, and whether kind of his stance softens on that as we go forward, you know, whether he sees that his minutes really are going to be limited, whether a club that comes in for him that he's really actually interested in joining, we will have to see. But I think the clear sign here, what we're seeing, is that it's not going to stop Liverpool, is it? They are going to progress with this move. They're going to move forward and bring in a holding midfielder, regardless of the fact that the Endo is determined to stay. They think that they need to do something in that position and really strengthen there. But as I say, really interesting kind of days and hours ahead, really, because there are those key questions to answer in terms of, you know, are the payment terms favourable? Do Liverpool approach that in a different way? Can they get that done? And can they convince the player that his future would be best served making a move to the Premier League with Liverpool? Really, really fascinating to see how that all plays out. And of course, the best place to find out, I think at least, is on this channel. And if you do enjoy this insight and you want to learn more and you want to find out what Liverpool's next moves in the transfer market are going to be, and how this move in particular is going to play out, then please do hit that subscribe button. And of course, always massively helpful if you can like the video as well. Really, really helps to get it out there. And of course, do let me know in the comments as well what you think about this. Are you happy about Zubimendi? Did you want a different holding midfielder? Do you think he'd be a success? And, you know, how hopeful are you that Liverpool will get this over the line? We will, of course, see in the coming days. Really, really exciting, though, that things are moving for Liverpool in the transfer market. So hopefully I'll be back very soon with an update on this move, and maybe even other moves, outgoings as well, to talk about as in the coming weeks, no doubt about that. So hopefully I'll see you guys very, very soon.